strange discovery. One bright morning, Benny and Ruby were walking through the forest. The sun was shining, and the forest felt peaceful. Birds sang happily in the tall trees, and butterflies floated across the flowers. Suddenly, Benny stopped walking. Something unusual caught his attention on the ground. "Ruby, look at this," Benny said. Ruby hopped closer and looked down. In the soft mud of the forest path were huge footprints. They were much larger than any animal footprint they had ever seen. Ruby's ears stood up in surprise. "Those footprints are enormous." Benny looked at the trail of prints stretching deeper into the forest. "I wonder what made them fear in the forest." As Benny and Ruby followed the footprints, they soon reached a small clearing. Several animals were gathered there. The squirrels looked frightened. The rabbits whispered nervously. Even the deer seemed worried. "What's happening?" Benny asked. One of the birds flew down quickly. "Everyone is scared," the bird said. Something huge walked through the forest last night. Ruby looked at the giant footprints again. They must belong to whatever animal came here. The animals began whispering. "Maybe it's a monster. Maybe it's dangerous." Benny shook his head. "We shouldn't assume that." Following the footprints, Benny decided they needed to find out the truth. "If we follow the footprints," Benny said, "we might discover what made them." Ruby nodded. "Let's investigate." The giant footprints continued across the forest path. They led through tall grass and around large trees. Sometimes the footprints were deep in the mud. Sometimes they appeared in the sand near the river, but they always pointed in the same direction. Deeper into the forest, the mystery grows. As Benny and Ruby continued following the footprints, they noticed something strange. The footprints were not destructive. No trees had been knocked down. No animals had been harmed. In fact, some plants along the path had been gently pushed aside. Ruby thought carefully. If this creature were dangerous, she said, the forest would look damaged. Benny agreed. Maybe it's not a monster after all. But then suddenly they heard a loud sound. Crack! A branch snapped somewhere ahead. Both friends froze. Something big was moving through the forest. The big surprise. Benny slowly walked forward. Ruby followed quietly behind him. When they stepped into the next clearing, they finally saw the creature. Standing near the river was a giant elephant. The elephant looked tired and confused. Its long trunk slowly moved across the ground. The elephant looked around the forest as if searching for something. Ruby whispered softly, "It's not a monster." Benny nodded. "It's just lost." Helping the giant, Benny walked toward the elephant carefully. "Hello," he said kindly. The elephant looked down at the small bear. Its eyes looked sad. "I'm lost," the elephant said. "I traveled far from my home and cannot find the way back." Ruby stepped forward. "Don't worry, we will help you." The elephant looked surprised. "You would help me?" Benny smiled. "Of course." The journey home, the elephant explained that it had followed a river into the forest during the night. But the forest was so large that it had become confused. Ruby thought carefully. "If we follow the river in the opposite direction, we might find your home." So the three friends began walking along the river path. The journey was long. They crossed grassy hills. They walked past tall waterfalls. They climbed gentle forest slopes. But finally, they saw something familiar. A large open savanna beyond the forest, the elephant's home. A happy ending when the elephant saw the open land. Its eyes filled with happiness. "My home," it said excitedly. Other elephants were already waiting. Nearby, they happily greeted their lost friend before leaving. The elephant turned back toward Benny and Ruby. "Thank you for helping me," it said kindly. Benny waved. "We're glad you're safe." Ruby smiled. And now the mystery of the giant footprints is solved. The forest is peaceful again. As Benny and Ruby walked back into the forest, the sun slowly began to set. Golden light filled the trees. The forest felt peaceful again. Benny looked at Ruby and laughed. Turns out the giant footprints weren't scary after all. Ruby nodded. Sometimes the things we fear are just friends we haven't met yet. And the two friends continued walking home through the glowing forest. Moral of the story: never judge others before you understand them.